Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm excited to get to talk about consistently worshiping God today. And I just like to talk about corporate worship and private worship, or how we live our lives, and just how the one contributes to the other. So, corporate worship is unitedly as a church coming together and proclaiming God's character, His goodness, His faithfulness, proclaiming that we trust God, proclaiming that He is good. So think about this. When we sing songs, what the song does is it gives us the ability to say the same thing, and it gives us some emotional support to proclaim God is good, He is faithful. So when we sing, "You're a good, good Father," it's not just me saying that. It's all the people in the church who are actively participating and singing. And that's just so special. Like when we can unitedly proclaim that God is good, He is faithful, He is worthy of all that we have. So corporate worship is that. So when we come to church, it's unitedly proclaiming God's goodness and faithfulness and His character and our trust. So what do I mean by private worship or worshiping with our lives? Well, if you turn to Romans 12, verse 1, let's look at that. So Romans 12, verse 1 says, "I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual act of worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Then you will be able to test and discern what the will of God is, what is good and acceptable and perfect." So this is coming in at the first application section of Romans. So Paul has been talking about doctrine, the whole book, about the gospel really. And it says, in light of the gospel, in light of all this doctrine I've been teaching you, don't just leave it at this doctrine that you know, apply it. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual act of worship. So because of the gospel that we've been saved by, because of Christ, because of all the things that Paul teaches in Romans, he says, I appeal to you. Like, don't just leave this stuff as head knowledge. I appeal to you. Offer your bodies as living sacrifices, which is your spiritual act of worship. So living a transformed life by the Spirit of God, trusting God, living in light of all that He's taught us. Are we living with trust in Jesus? Are we living with love for others? Are we living empowered by the Spirit? All these choices, our character and our choices, the decisions that we make, these are all acts of worship. Are we going to worship God as the King of the universe who is worthy of everything and make decisions that please Him? Are we going to live in ways that might seem sacrificial, like we're giving up stuff, but we're living the way Jesus wants us to? That's our personal worship, and it gives us just the ability to come to a church on Sunday and for it not to be fake when we sing together. You know, like if we are not living in light of the gospel, and if we are not living in a way that's pleasing to God, when we come together and just say words on Sunday, what does it mean if we aren't living that way personally, if we aren't trusting God personally, if we aren't living for Him and seeking to please Him with our lives? When we seek to please Him with our lives and we live in a way that our lives are sacrificial, it gives special meaning to what we actually doing on Sunday and singing corporately, because it's a consistent worship. It's not just coming in on a Sunday morning and lifting up your hands and singing words, but it's coming to a church on Sunday, living a transformed life and saying, God, I really do love you. I really do need you. And God, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to live this transformed life perfectly, and I need you to give me grace. I need you to supply what is lacking. And when we come together as a church like that, our worship is just consistent and it's beautiful in God's sight. So my challenge to you is, and my challenge to myself, no one's grown past this, is live a life that is worshipful to God, live a life that is transformed by His Spirit. And then when we come together on Sunday mornings, it's beautiful, it's truthful, it's consistent, it's not fake, because we're all singing with the truth that we're living, and that is just beautiful. So I hope you enjoy this week and just live for God and trust Him. Thanks.